You can look at the co-related risk from two sides. First of all, you could think how a co would affect the game result. However, not always you could estimate the result well. Not always one of the players will have a big advantage. The other perspective is who loses more in case of losing the co. This is a standard position after a Sansan invasion, and let's say that in the endgame white plays this Hane. Usually black would descend, but can black think of playing Atari? If white simply connects, then white gets a small present, a little bit more territory. However, white could start the ko. In this ko, black could lose really a lot, and black cannot really win much. Even if white loses the ko, it's just a few points. But if black loses it, black loses the whole corner. Such a ko, where white risks almost nothing and black risks a lot, is called a flower ko, or a picnic ko for white. White plays it without any stress. Low risk, high reward. Let's see another common endgame example. In this position, black plays Hane, and then white might feel urged to Atari and protect the territory. However, black would not connect. Black can start a ko, on which black risks almost nothing, but white risks a lot of points. If white loses it, then all this territory is gone. So what was the correct choice for white? When black played Hane, white should have extended. And alright, white loses 2 more points of territory, but white doesn't risk losing all of it. But now we will go to more interesting stuff. Sometimes you might be so focused on your own potential loss in a ko that you forget to check how much your opponent risks. This position looks very similar to the previous one. Black plays Hane, and then white might think, alright, I will not risk, and just extend. However, think what would happen if white plays Atari. Can black dare to start the ko? Yes, white risks a lot on this ko, but if black loses it, then the whole corner dies. In practice, in such cases, your opponent would not dare to start the ko. This Atari is the correct move for white, and black would just connect. Remember to not only think about yourself, as well not think only about the opponent. For example, it often happens that when you invade an opponent's formation and get a ko for life, you would feel bad seeing that your group might die. But oftentimes, if you win the ko, not only will your group live, but also it will cause a lot of additional damage for the opponent's shapes. This is a game which I played against Nikola Mitic at a Grand Slam. I am playing black. It's already late middle game and I have just invaded white's corner. Now, white plays Atari and I start the ko. I found one threat on the bottom. And then my opponent played this threat. So should black answer to this threat? One could say, ooh, I would live with a group in one corner but lose a group in another corner. That's not a deal I should accept. But if we imagine the position after black wins the ko, then we will see that white's shape gets completely broken, and it's not just about this Atari. Black will cut. This is what happened in the game, and from what I felt, this is also the place where I got the advantage. Note that it would be a whole different story if black mistakenly played that Hane, and also black would live with a ko. But it would be just a ko on the inside of black's shape. And then if black wins such a ko, it's good, but white's shapes don't collapse. So in this situation, when you invade white's corner, the correct move is this Hane. You also live only in a ko, but you can gain much more in case you win the ko. Let's look at another shape which is also often seen in games. What do you think? Can black kill white's group? if black wants to kill this group of white, then black's only option is to play this crazy double hane. Then white could atari, and black starts a ko. Well, I know quite many aggressive players who would be very excited about this possibility. There is that group which looks alive, but you can just play double hane and the ko starts. However, should you really use this option? Imagine that this was black's moyo. Black had a very big potential and then tries to kill white in ko. In case black loses the ko, it is not only about white's group getting alive, but also all the moyo gets destroyed. The same shape might appear in a joseki after double corner approach. Again, we get that group of white which could be killed in ko. Black could play hane and double hane. Now it is not about a moyo, because black doesn't have much potential there, but in case black loses, white not only lives, but also makes black's group very, very weak. In practice, in professional games, you will often see that black doesn't go for this ko, but eventually, in the endgame, black simply connects and lets white live. Before starting a ko, you need to take into account your risk, but also your opponent's risk.
By the way, you can also watch these lessons on our platform, gomagic.org. Except there, you'll watch them with interactive quizzes right within the lessons and practical exercises right after them. And if you enjoy watching these Go videos and you don't want to miss others like this one, go smash that like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and this is Go Magic.